The way I learned about kind of the Airbnb algorithm is really by studying the brands in the Airbnb space and in the short-term rental space that have really started to emerge, and really just kind of studying how they created their listing from a photo perspective down to a site description perspective, looking on their own website, looking on how they list properties across these different search platforms. And so these are the companies, and I think, Dave Stetch, a couple of days ago touched on a really important point, just kind of in general in terms of marketing, really study your competition. So if you want to take a picture, if you want to write some of these down, these are the brands that are in the short-term rental space. These are property management companies. These are hospitality companies. The ones kind of on the top are the big national players. Very easy to beat them in conversation with the homeowner. These companies from Vacasa to Domio and Evolve and Turnkey have recognized problems with quality assurance. They have thousands or tens of thousands of units under management. But the ones on the bottom are kind of more of your localized kind of Scottsdale players, as well as some of your coastal towns. Goodnight does a really good job. So if you see a luxury property with Goodnight, kind of just study what they're doing from an SEO perspective, which is really kind of how I learned. So for those who don't know, search engine optimization is the practice of enhancing a ranking position in a search result, right? It's pretty easy. A lot of you have owned businesses. The higher up you rank in Airbnb or VRBO or Google, the more site visibility, the more traffic, and the more conversions that you're going to generate, right? So it's really just the practice of enhancing the listing position of that piece of content or your listing on Airbnb. Airbnb ranking factors, there's a number of different factors that Airbnb is going to consider when they're going to determine where your property should list in the search engines. It's going to come down to 4 kind of primary factors which will help you optimize your listing search potential. On-page listing content. Consider these to be your controllable factors. Right, these are going to be the professional photography, which we'll get into in a little bit, the descriptions, the way you're using keywords. Consumer engagement is the amount of traffic. So someone searches on Airbnb, they like what they see, something about your listing is catching their eye. They may click on your particular profile. Even if they don't book with you, Airbnb is going to recognize that. And that's going to be really important for the long-term sustainability of keeping your listing up on page 1. Reviews. We'll talk about reviews in a little bit as well. Reviews are probably one of the most crucial and critical factors that Airbnb is going to, and all these other platforms are going to look at when determining where your site should rank. How well you're priced. We've talked about some dynamic pricing tools. Your occupancy rate. If you're only booked 20% of the time, your listing might not be a great fit for the Airbnb consumer who's looking. And Superhost and Airbnb Plus, which we'll get into, Superhost is as good as it could possibly get in terms of maximizing revenue on your property. Airbnb Plus has a little bit more to do with the actual look and feel and quality of the home and design of the home. And it's a newly released feature last year. There's not enough data yet to determine how much more revenue you can book by having an Airbnb Plus. But across the board, across Airbnb's entire platform, they say that Superhost generate about 22% more revenue than a regular host. So we'll talk about how to get there as quickly as possible. So setting up your listing, I know Dave had talked about this, and I don't necessarily want to be super redundant, so I'll kind of breeze through the next few slides. What you'll really notice about some of these is, especially in the luxury home space, and particularly in Arizona, these are the top listings for 16 occupants or more as of last night anyway, across Airbnb in Scottsdale, is 2 things. Number 1, pools. Everyone in Arizona, when they come here, they want a great backyard, they want a great pool. It's kind of an indicator. If you find a luxury property that doesn't have a pool, it might be a red flag. Again, if you fall in love with the deal, take it, but people love a great entertainer's paradise outdoor pool. And number 2, professional photography. So Airbnb has a network of local freelance photographers that you can get info from, or you can go to Yelp or just search Google. But definitely, and I'm glad Dave touched on it before I jumped up here, definitely invest the $200 or $300 in a professional photographer. An added bonus, if they have experience in drone piloting, really sets you apart by getting drone photography. And I also recommend having daytime and dusk photography, since a lot of these beautiful properties at night really light up, and the sunsets out here are gorgeous. So I definitely recommend that. You guys may or may not recognize the second listing right there. That is a host by the name of Dave Bynum's home. He obviously, as you guys know, paid Airbnb a ton of money to get there. I'm just kidding. Dave's done a really good job promoting the SEO on that home, and it's obviously got 5-star reviews, which certainly helps. But it's the second property listed, which is great. This is just a slide for the setup page, right? So back to talking about some of the consumer engagement, the title. You want something really catchy. I wouldn't recommend using the word, because you're limited to a certain number of characters. What is it, 36 characters? So I tend to not recommend using a keyword like your city. Like I don't want to use the word Scottsdale in a title. That property is only going to show up in Scottsdale anyway. So use those characters towards more kind of buzzy words, luxurious, entertainer's paradise. Those types of words are typically recommended. The summary is obviously something that's super important as well. You want to really showcase a lot of the amenities in your summary. So I'll give you an example. If someone has booked in the past on Airbnb and left a review on another host in another city that said, hey, I love the open dining room table, and you have a great dining room table, and you put in the summary, we have a great dining room table, that your listing, your home is going to be a little more relevant to that potential searcher. So definitely talk about, and you have a lot of opportunity in the space description as well as the summary section when you're setting up your listing tab to talk about the features, the amenities, and really what the draw is. And don't even necessarily consider just in-home factors, right? If you're walking distance to, Old Town Scottsdale and you notice that you get great bookings from, bachelor and bachelorette parties, talk about that, right? Because that'll help your listing show up better for those types of guests and searchers. A couple more tips continued. We've talked about, hiring a professional photographer, capture video. Drone photography is super interesting right now to me in the luxury home space. It seems like a no-brainer for a couple reasons. One, it looks really cool, really different. And number two, there's not that many people doing it yet, which might change. And then use the cream of the crop photography. Sometimes you'll see these beautiful houses that have 70 photos. There's photos of the washer and dryer, there's garage photos. Like, we're not trying to sell the house. We're trying to sell the beauty of the experience. And so really take photos that are going to encapsulate that and really kind of showcase the property in a really attractive light that doesn't necessarily mean you need to have a picture in every single room and crook and corner, etc. So don't go overboard on the photos. Back to Superhost. So this is, I want to talk to you about the quickest strategy that I've seen, or quickest path, I should say, that I've seen to obtaining Superhost status. Because again, you jump onto Superhost, and you could be literally making tens of thousands of dollars in additional bookings per year just for having that new Superhost badge. So when you sign up for Airbnb, a lot of people don't know this, but Airbnb wants to keep you on the platform. And the way they do that is by giving you what's called a New Love badge. And this is just a way for you guys to get some really easy, really quick wins. So inherently, without the reviews and without the former reservations, you're going to, for the first 90 days, be up at the very top with all of their best listings. And they want you to taste it. They want you to have some easy wins, some quick bookings within days of jumping onto the platform. And this is a really good opportunity for you to drive the consumer engagement and to really build up your listing while you have the opportunity to get these quick and easy wins, to sustain a long-term position in that kind of upper echelon and get Superhost. And the way to really do that is they're looking at a couple of different things. Particularly, they're going to look at the occupancy rate, they're going to look at the rate of reviews left, and they're going to look at the amount of inquiries that you respond to, as well as bookings. Right, so what I would always recommend doing when people start a new kind of Airbnb account, you really want to prioritize the number of reviews and reservations over revenue, really first for that 90 days. And the way to do that is by, again, we could use these dynamic pricing tools, or you can just look at kind of your comparable, competition on the website, just undercut them, not significantly, but just enough to just kind of drive that booking home. So 10 to 15% is all you really need to undercut them by. It's not going to cost a ton of money. A lot of these homes also have 3-night minimums. So setting instant book, which is a functionality that's very easy to set up, as well as 2-night minimums instead of 3, is really going to help with driving bookings and looking at your calendar. You really want to be in the first 90 days at probably around 75% occupancy. So across the whole year, if you can book anywhere between 225 to 245 nights booked a year, you're in really good shape. But for the first 90 days, you want your occupancy to be around 75%. And if you can get out of, say, your first 10 reservations, if you can get 7 of them to leave a review, you're going to be in a really, really strong position for maximum long-term rankings. You really want at least, generally speaking, at least 50% of your guests to leave reviews. But in that first 90 days, you're really shooting for more. So any questions about kind of this new love strategy, the first 90 days when you put your listing on Airbnb and it's rewarding you? Any questions about that?
The undercutting.
That's fine.
The third one down says undercut comparable listings only, the rate like 10 to 13%. Could you explain that a little bit better?
Yeah, so this is the ADR, the average daily rate, which you'll see. You go to Airbnb right now, for example, you can look at any property. It'll say under the dates that you want, it'll say what the price per night is, right? So if it's $100 price per night, for example, make it $90, $85. You really want to just undercut them enough to just, if you're looking at home A and home B that are very comparable, and home B is a little cheaper, you really want that reservation. It's not as much about that creating that 15% revenue for yourself as it is just getting the reservation. So it's just a way to kind of, again, undercut the competition, try to maximize the amount of bookings that you get in that 90-day window. You want bookings over revenue in the first 90 days. So this is the criteria for obtaining Superhost by Airbnb, and make it pretty easy. So the toughest one is going to be that 4.8 average star rating. Reviews, I mean, I can't say it enough. They're critical, they're key, they're like gold. You really need positive reviews. If someone's angry and threatening a negative review because of their experience, you can offer a couple of different things. You can offer a partial refund. It's hard for me to recommend, but if you bait them into saying something extortionary, like, if you don't give me a refund, I will leave a negative review, and that communication happens within the Airbnb platform, they'll be blacklisted. You send that to Airbnb, they'll see it, they're gone forever, you never have to worry about them again. So you actually want, if people do say that, use that type of verbiage or language, Airbnb doesn't allow, it's in their terms of service, so they'll blacklist that person from anything about your listing. The rest of them are, if you're running an Airbnb full time, which hopefully if you're here, that's what you're here to do, should be pretty easy, right? How hard is it to respond within 24 hours of an inquiry? 10 plus stays or 100 night stays, 10 stays in the past year. Well, you could theoretically have 10 stays within the first month. Don't cancel on these people. It's a big no-no for Airbnb. And so doing all of these, I've seen Superhost given within a 4-month window. 4 months would be kind of your goal, but could take longer. It's not going to make or break you necessarily. It's just a really nice kind of icing on the cake, if you will. Particularly on the Airbnb platform. I don't believe VRBO has a kind of Superhost equivalent yet. Could be wrong. I don't believe so, though. Last year, Airbnb rolled out a new feature to really kind of compete with the consistency of high-end hotel chains, right? So economically, short-term rentals will beat, especially at the luxury end and for the number of rooms, will almost always beat a high-end hotel offering, Ritz-Carlton, Starwood properties, et cetera. But what Airbnb has struggled with in the last few years and what they're really trying to combat against is the consistency and the in-home experience for their guests when they stay at a property. So the reason why Ritz-Carlton, for example, has such an amazing kind of brand loyalty associated to it is because if you stay at a Ritz-Carlton in Bangladesh versus a Ritz-Carlton in Costa Rica and a Ritz-Carlton in Sacramento, you're going to, what to expect. You're going to have a consistent, high quality experience. And so that is the purpose and the reason behind Airbnb Plus. They want to give the loyal Airbnb guests who are booking constantly, in different countries and in different cities and who are traveling for work, they want to be able to have a platform within the platform to give these people a consistent, high quality experience, right? Does that make sense? So there is, yes?
With this one, will you show up on the regular Airbnb as well?
So there's a couple different ways that I've seen Airbnb Plus show up. I think it's so new, so it just came out last year. I mean, it's literally a year old as far as the full rollout, but I think they're testing it in different markets. I've seen Airbnb Plus homes in LA actually show up organically with the rest of the Airbnb hosts and Superhosts. In Scottsdale, I think what caught my eye when I did it, last night, for example, I didn't see some of those Airbnb Plus homes. So I don't actually have a great answer for you on that because I've kind of seen it both ways. And there's not enough data yet to support how much extra revenue that you can book with an Airbnb Plus home, but there is data to suggest that people, high quality guests who are leaving, because guests can be reviewed too, right? Someone stays at your property, you can leave them a review as a guest. So guests that have lots of 5-star reviews, your Airbnb Plus home will be promoted to those types of people. So you're being promoted to high quality guests that are known for leaving positive reviews, guests who have stayed in houses before who have been reviewed positively. And these are also the type of people who are likely to kind of be your repeat customers year over year, right? So those are the types of, that's kind of the best type of guests to get. It requires about a 100-point inspection process, which really is looking at amenities. Keyless entry is key, especially for those of you who want to be managing properties virtually. Someone locks their key at 3 in the morning and you live 3 states away and your handyman's not answering the phone, that could be problematic. So I kind of across the board recommend this, but it's certainly the ones that want to be managing properties over several states. Keyless entry is going to be key for them. Wireless, high-speed wireless internet, maybe even like Sling TV, gaming, all of the look and feel needs to be kind of modern. I think going back yesterday when the first thing I noticed in home and the second home that we went to, I was like, this has no shot with this furnishing. This isn't what an Airbnb Plus potential guest wants to experience in their home as far as furnishings, so it would never qualify. So certainly, I kind of think about that when I run through homes, and I would certainly implore you guys to kind of have that in the back of your mind. And as more data comes out with Airbnb Plus, we'll certainly inform you guys what that is. I wish I had, true revenue numbers for you yet. Searched high and wide, couldn't find it. Key takeaways here, study your competition. That's how I learned. From an SEO, from a marketing perspective, from an SEO perspective, if you ever want to run ads to promote your property across Facebook and Instagram. There's a really easy way on Facebook to just go to any of these competitors that I showed you at the beginning. Go to their Facebook page. There's a tab that says Info and Ads. You click on it. You'll see every single live ad that they're running, what the description is. You don't know what they're spending on that, but you'll get a feel for what their ads look like. Definitely invest in professional photography. Don't go overboard on photos. Drone shots are really cool, as I mentioned, dusk and daytime shots. So maybe you need them, talk to your photographer. They might need them to come back twice, or start earlier in the day. And reviews are your lifeblood. In high occupancy, you're really trying to drive high occupancy in the first 90 days, because once your kind of sign up promo period from Airbnb ends, they're going to be looking at your listing. How many clicks did you get? How much engagement? How much time when people clicked on your listing did they stay on your page? Did they ask you a question? Did you respond to their questions? Did they scroll through all of your photos or just one photo? Did they book or did they press the back button? Did they leave a review? So all of these factors come into play for kind of where they determine or where they're going to want to evaluate and place your home listing long term. And again, I know I've said it 8 times, but try to get to Superhost as quick as possible. If you guys want to connect with me, just put my email, my LinkedIn there. Feel free to shoot me an email if you have any questions or want me to look at deals. Like I said, I love looking at deals, evaluating gross rental performances and what things will do in high season, low season. So that's all fun stuff to me. So yes.
Is there somewhere we can look for keywords?
Yeah, so the question was, is there somewhere where we can look for keywords? So there's an easy way to do that, and then there's a longer way to do that. The easy way is to find the listings that you can tell are just killing it, hundreds of reviews, they're 5 stars, beautiful photography, and just sort of emulate what they have. And then there's free web scraping, keyword scraping tools where you literally plug in 8 different URLs to 8 different listings, and it'll scrape and it'll compile, all right, these are the 5 words that are being used the most, the second most, the third most, the fourth most, etc. So, but good question. Anyone else? I think we have one more question. Okay.
Great job. Great job.